Do they not have predators in this dimension? Why would you give your daughter a backpack and leave her to go off with some creepy old man you know nothing about? Welcome to Voice of the Fat Mantis and my review of the Rings of Power Episode 8, the season finale. This is supposed to be the epic season finale of this first season of Rings of Power. Now, they've invested so much money, there's no way it's not getting a second or a third or a fourth. It's probably going to go all 5 seasons, so we better just sit down and enjoy the ride. Now, even I could tell that they violated various aspects of canon, and I'm not going to point them out to you. It's up for you to decide and share this information with me down in the comments if you have any complaints. But I would say that particularly this episode, it plays fast and loose with the rules of Tolkien, and I have a feeling that the diehards are not going to love it. Now, before we get any further, I'd love it if you liked, shared, and subscribed to Voice of the Fat Mantis so I can keep chugging this Rings of Power train along. Getting started, at first I want to say, celebrate good times. Come on, that's right, I was right. That older man is Sauron, something that I put in my Who is the Meteor Man video, which did so well comparatively from what my channel does. And I was celebrating, I was happy, and then I realized we had discovered it within the first 5 minutes. Which means that is probably not real. That is probably not what's going on. And then we move on to Galadriel and Halbrand. Now, I really don't love what unfolded here. I love the imagery, the settings, the looks. I particularly like Galadriel when she's prettied up in her green dress and she's actually wearing makeup. Oh, I like Galadriel when she wears makeup. But the thing that is so annoying to me is as soon as he heals up, he immediately starts asking Celebrimbor what is going on in his lab. And he's looking around and he's asking, what are these 3 stones? What does this forge do? What about this? Have you thought of this? I have all these ideas. And it is just the shadiest thing in the world. A man who is just stabbed with a polearm to the gut and forced to ride 6 days in a row. His first concern is about forging techniques and stuff. And so, however, Galadriel is not part of this. She hasn't seen this undertake. She suddenly has an inkling, a weird feeling about Halbrand, and decides to research his heraldry. You're telling me that a man who tells you that he's the king of the Southlanders, you did not look into the origin of his family tree. You did not look for proof. You did not look for evidence. You didn't ask for ID, Galadriel. You know what Galadriel is? She's the state trooper who pulls over the serial killer who has a couple of corpses in his back. And then she looks at his ID. It doesn't even look at his ID. She's like, you look like a good fellow. Head on home. It's ridiculous that she only just decides to do this, which I think is just an element of poor writing. But she finally decides to look into it, even though she's committed to a war to help him become king again. She now decides to double check and goes, oops, there doesn't seem to be a king of the Southlands. You literally had people die in his name. Excellent work, Galadriel. It was utterly stupid, but certainly he is acting incredibly shady, and it's becoming more and more clear to us, the viewer, of the 3 things that are happening. It is clear that the Meteor Man is not Sauron. It is becoming more and more clear that Halbrand is Sauron, and it's becoming very, very clear that this weird, mythological, strange, supernatural, magical artifact that they keep talking about how to construct, which we, the viewer, don't understand why they're bothering with these details, because we're not going to understand it, is going to end up being the 3 rings for the Elven Kings. Underneath the sky. Then when we return to our Harfoot / Meteor Man storyline, it gets really good, at least in terms of the people who are looking for action and adventure, because the 3 fanatics are there and they're using their creepy powers. I kind of wish they stuck around longer, but they're using their creepy powers to be mischievous with people. And I gotta say something, they do not make fanatics the way they used to. These people are supposed to serve Sauron, but instead they put a sleep spell on him, later on physically assault him, and also try to bind his hands to a tree. They are horrible fanatics. Who are these people to do this? And I gotta tell you, if your Lord and Savior, Dark Lord, is in a mood and he wants to create hurricane force winds, You let him do hurricane force winds. I do not understand what kind of fanatics are trying to beat up Sauron. If you serve Sauron, then serve him and let him do his thing. That was bizarre to me. But they end up having a magical battle, and it's clear that I don't know where these girls get their magical powers or where they're from, but it was clear they could not stand up to his power. Now, right before they are completely and utterly defeated, they utter the words, they go, he is not Sauron, he is Ishtar, meaning he's an Ishtar, as an Ishtarian wizard. And they are then vaporized and sent back to the spirit plane. But the thing is that you're telling me if there was ever a chance that this supernatural creature that you're beating up and bringing back to the land of Rune is not Sauron, do you want to investigate that? They just assumed the guy was Sauron. If there's a slight chance he could be someone else, another opportunity where you should ask for ID. It's so bizarre to me that they were going to drag this. What if they had successfully dragged him all the way there and they were like, oh, wrong Maiar. We got the good one. And it implies that he's a good one. And once again, it does not say his name. And I think once again, they are heavily implying that he's Gandalf. I do not believe that it will serve canon well. I think people will have a hissy fit if it is Gandalf the Grey. I think that it works better if he is one of the blue wizards, but perhaps he is. They made sure not to give him his name, so there is still mystery afoot. We may know who Sauron is, but the Meteor Man probably still has more to reveal, or at least I hope he does. Because I gotta say, revealing all the secrets in this episode would just be a drag. Give us something to be thirsty for season 2, please. Now, and then we get to Galadriel's confrontation with Sauron. Now she finally decides to show that she has some level of education and actually read a scroll and confront this dude who is clearly some sort of evildoer, and it's clear there's some sort of romantic intention she had with him. Of course, she has her Mary Sue Spidey sense telling him he's up to no good. She confronts him, and then he's stupid enough to reveal who he is. And then they get into a very cliche psychic battle. He puts her into memories, and he's doing this kind of like you're going through old scenes kind of things. And it is a horrible trope, horrible cliche that we see in almost everything. When a villain wants to mess with someone, they psychically put you into your worst memories or your happiest ones to try to trick you. There's even a moment where it looks like there's sheer lust in their eyes and they're going to do it when they're back on the raft. And I got to say, no one fell for that. No one at any point thought Galadriel was going to give in to this one. And it's as lame as the 10th time Star Wars has a Sith Lord in the middle of a duel say, you should join me, betray your friends, and join the dark side. And as usual, she turns them down. And just like the Jedis in Star Wars turn them down, other than in the novelizations, in the live action, we've never seen someone say, you know what? You are so right, man. You tried to kill me, but I should have betrayed my friends and joined you. And it's so predictable that she's going to be stronger than that, and she certainly is stronger than that. And then at the end, she discovers that this evildoer is Sauron. He led them to come up with this idea of creating the rings. She runs up there, and instead of just making 2 rings, she decides to add one more to the list. She's like, as long as the Amazon orders 2, we might as well make it an even trio. You know what I mean? And they still make the rings, even though they know that the source of it is evil. It's so bizarre to me. I don't understand what's going on. But I guess they might be in desperate times, but I'm not sure what would motivate somebody. If I was like, the Dark Lord wants you to build this, then I'm not building it. What they're trying to avoid doing is moving back to Valinor. Move. We all do it in our lifetime. You know, you go off to college, you get married, and you have kids, and you don't have enough room. You got to move to the suburbs. People move, man. They all should just move. Case closed, man. I don't know. I don't know. And then they need, they say great constructs need the finest of gold and silver from Valinor. Valnorian gold and silver. And she has to part with her brother's dagger. And I understand that they wanted to make this thing that a part of her very soul, her love, is infused in the dagger, just as the One Ring has Sauron's hate. deceit, despair, and disgust at the lesser races is put into it. And so a part of her is in that very ring, and it makes it more emotional why she takes the ring. But the question I have is that the only elven gold and silver they have in that entire city? They have literally a citadel, a fortress, a castle, an entire elven city for the high elves. And you're telling me there's no elven gold and silver in there. She's the only one who has an artifact from Valinor. It seemed kind of silly, but whatever. I feel like this particular episode asked me to suspend disbelief. Now, I got to say, I did enjoy this episode way more than last episode because things were at least happening. They were chugging along with the plot. And to be honest, I was excited for what we would get in the final scene. They do a long amount of moving along to create the rings, and I actually enjoy watching the construction of the rings. Call me a dork, but I found it fascinating, and it's interesting. And I thought it was cool that after she puts the dagger in, she keeps watching the melting forge, and she's watching the smelting process and all these things. She's like a kid, and it's Christmas time. She can't wait to get her new jewelry to go with her beautiful green dress and that beautiful makeup she's wearing. Very good, Gadriel. Then we quickly move over to the Harfoots, and as my opening joke suggests, why on earth are they letting this poor girl go off with this guy? I understand from an adventurer sense, we know he's good, and we know they're going to have a good time, and she's going to grow as a human. Grow as a hobbit. Grow as a Harfoot, because they're doing something that I think is just insincere. They're having her be a Harfoot adventurer. And that's the reason why they're using the phrase Harfoots. They're making them Harfoots, and they're proto-hobbits, so that it still is canonical and true that Bilbo is the first hobbit to go off and be an adventurer. Just so they can still have that, even though clearly they are the same species. And clearly they're going to, after they settle in the Shire, eventually take on the name Hobbit rather than Harfoot. I don't know. I think it's a gray area of canon, but it ain't none of my business. This is Amazon's business. And then finally, at the very end, we finally see the forging of the three rings be complete. And Elrond, after discovering that, he's like, wait a minute, the Southlanders don't have a king? And he runs around, and he gets up there, and the three rings are right there. And Galadriel turns and she looks at him. And honestly, she looks like a porn star who's gone crazy. Like she just went through gangbang 2022 or something like that. Because her makeup's messed up and she has a deranged look in her eye. And she just is like, it's almost like Harley Quinn the moment she went completely nuts, and after she comes out of the chemical bath, she just has this sick laugh in her, and I would be like, Galadriel, stay away from the rings, man. Just stay away from the rings. Oh man, crazy. It's possible that the ring dust from its creation getting up all in nostrils got it really high. But ultimately, even though I had a lot of jokes, I'm busting jokes, and I'm pointing out the lack of canon, I do think that this is one of the better episodes of the entire season, because like I said, they actually had things happen. I do hope there is more mystery going on with the Meteor Man, and I really do hope that he isn't just Gandalf the Grey, because then at this point, they're just replicating The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings just to rip themselves off. And honestly, this franchise is way better than that plagiarism bill. But the real question is, what did you think of it? Please let me know down in the comments. Remember to give me a like, share, and a subscribe, and keep tuning in to Voice of the Fat Mantis so we can predict about what's going to happen in Season 2. And I'll do more educational evaluations of Tolkien's work so we can have better, more educated explanations as to what might happen in the future instead of just guessing, although maybe Amazon doesn't even read the books at this point. Who knows? But until next time, ciao for now.